else I've been today, the temp has been around 106, so I want to grab this. Oh shit, it's 112. All right, hold on, y'all. Yeah, 112 right now at this spot. Hopefully this comes through. I got to swap out my sunglasses for. On Tuesday, the official city temperature in the city of San Antonio reached 98 degrees. But for those of us who live in the urban core, we know that can mean very little. When the weather folks show us temperatures tipping into the danger zone, we have to take care of ourselves, because we know that all this concrete and asphalt, the ceaseless traffic on the highways, all of that is collecting heat and pushing it back out into the environment. Temperatures here can easily be 10 degrees or more hotter than where they're recorded up at the international airport. At Deceleration, we think a lot about heat for a reason. When Albert Garcia died down the street, the official city temperature was 104, but we recorded at Albert's campsite temperatures of 115. When our friend Jessica Witzel died over in the Five Points area, the official city temperature was 106. It was an extreme heat wave in 2024, but just the day before I'd been downtown and had measured temperatures that reached 119. Extreme heat driven by the combustion of fossil fuels and destruction of natural areas, global forests, strains our power grid. It pushes up our power bills, and it impacts our health. Cities like San Antonio have put measures into place attempting to kind of soften the impact of all of this heat. There's so-called cool paving programs. There's tree planting campaigns, preservation of natural areas. They, urging people to ride share and do all of this just to keep that heat from going even higher. In the midst of such a heat emergency, how would you respond if you found out a neighbor had just moved in and they were pushing out massive amounts of superheated air through their roof and into your neighborhood, into your yard? We've been reviewing research showing these hyperscale data centers all around the world, on average, are putting out nearly 4 degrees Fahrenheit of additional heat that radiates out as far as 6 or 7 kilometers. And some are capable of pushing out even more than that, up to 17 or more degrees of added heat. So we checked the wind direction and packed a water bottle. We stopped first at Rainbow Hills Park, over there off of Rasa Drive. The official city temperature again is 98 degrees. It's about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Our reading is 105. We drive a couple miles to the north. We're near the Frost One building off of Rogers Road. Official temp, again, 98 degrees. Our reading is 104. And then we parked on the other side of these two massive Microsoft data centers, across the street from two more, one operational, one in development, Vantage Data Centers, TX21 and TX22. Okay, check. Mic sounds fine. All right, y'all, it's really hot right now. I've been out here. I've been wanting to look at these data centers over here. Some of the research folks have been asking about, so you can read right here. This is 110 right here. Everywhere else I've been today, the temp has been around 106, so I want to grab this. Oh shit, it's 112. All right, hold on. What I've been looking at and talking to researchers about are these data centers, the amount of heat that they put out. Deceleration writes a lot about urban heat island, which is where the built environment, when you tear up green space, grasslands, forests, prairies, lawns, whatever that green space is, when you tear it up and you put down asphalt and cement and roads, they've got more heat absorbing and reflecting capacity, right? So not only are these typical of any kind of construction in an urban area or even in a rural area, but what data centers do is they push out, they vent out all that heat of all those, those racks of, computers that are spinning in there. The reason they use so much water, if they're using evaporative cooling, they're pumping out a whole bunch of hot steam, right? The reason is because of the heat that generates on those racks. And so not only they've got to produce power, and that power produces heat, they've got to vent the heat out of the building. So right here, we're down to 109, 108 right now. But this clutch of data centers behind me are pushing out a huge amount of heat And it seems like we've been able to confirm that. We've tested stations along the way to the south and to the southeast. This is, you've been reading about Vantage. We've been reporting about Vantage. They are now 30-day notice of intent to sue by a trio of environmental organizations who say they shortcut the sort of permitting they should have done. So we're down, and I checked the wind this morning, okay? So the wind is blowing today to the north and northwest. I can feel it right now. It's blowing over the tops of these data centers and onto this already hot asphalt. Now we're down to 100, was 106, 107.
I mean, what we're talking about is what we're seeing in some parts of the city. Is it's very unlivable in a way during certain months of the year. You're talking to me from Texas, I think. That's probably more months of the year. It's going to become really unmanageable to be outside at the very least. Like, how can people live in cities and go outside their homes, and then you see places like Phoenix where they're thinking about, 3 or 4 months a year. How does a city function in this heat 3 or 4 months a year? And this is just creating more spaces where that might be a challenge and a question. If you are in the middle of a more rural area, how does it impact the plants and animals and crops that are getting 10 to 15 degrees more heat coming at them constantly? Basically, these data centers are up and running constantly. So there are a lot of different things that need to be looked at. You need to be looking at data centers near where people live, but then also a lot of them are going, and they'll say, well, we're going into rural areas where there isn't anyone, but there may be other impacts there. We know there's heat from impacts in rural areas. Well, ask any farmer if climate change has impacted them, and they will say yes.